regular meeting for the month of March, and I will say that I normally don't wear a sweatshirt to a meeting. I've come directly from the baseball field up here, so I apologize. I heard you. But I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting. Everyone had an opportunity to look over the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, public comment. Mr. Danny McIntosh talked about the blizzard and projects. Well, we can't talk about a blizzard, Danny, it's March.
Never been a snowstorm in March.
Mayor, council members, town staff, it feels like springtime, but I felt like since this was the 30th anniversary of the blizzard of '93 that Worth mentioned, so there I
Oh, shit is.
Now, I saw the, where y'all had a joint meeting with the county to talk about all the projects that's going on, and all I can really say about that is I appreciate your hard work. This is historic in town of Burnsville, of course, for a lot of counties and communities across the nation. There's a lot of money being spent, and I'm thankful that we're getting to spend some of it. There are projects being done that I would never believe that they could have been done here. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to be a great help, and I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you, Danny.
Oh, and I was going to say that if you didn't get a chance to watch the news, you should, because we got a new celebrity right here that appeared there tonight. So, Christy, I think you've done a good job.
Thank you, Danny. All right, we have two sets of minutes to adopt. A regular meeting on February the 2nd and a special joint meeting with the county on February the 8th. Have a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve both of those.
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, public hearings, CDBGI project. Michelle Ball is here, and I guess just Michelle go first.
Yeah, Michelle, just give her information, and Dana, Bolden is also here from Withers Ravenel, the engineering firm that is working on this project for us, and then after that,
Dana's going to assist. Okay, do you need to open the hearing
I think,
or do I do my stuff then you?
I think you do your stuff
Okay.
in the open hearing.
Because I've got a little bit to say. I have a checklist of things I have to mention, and I apologize ahead of time. And the reason we're doing this public hearing, it is on the existing CDBGI project, the West Main Sewer Interceptor. And it's the one that goes from West Main Street all the way down to the water treatment plant. And what they're planning to do is, well, it's repair replacement, but it is cured in place pipe. So they're going to slip pipe in at each manhole instead of digging everything up to line the pipe. So no more leaks, no more I&I, no more, hopefully no more problems, and it'll help with the wastewater treatment plant as well in the end. But I've got my script to read. Okay, the purpose of the public hearing held today is to obtain citizen view and allow response from the public to amend the original description of the project area for better clarity. At the time that we did the application, we didn't have great maps, and it was very general. DEQ was not fond of that, and since there's a lot of the lines run outside of the public right-of-way, even though, as Heather and I we were talking about a minute ago, all the line has easements, and we were considering that public right-of-way. DEQ doesn't, so we're having to go in and amend to show where they're going kind of cross-country into private property. And again, there's not going to be any digging, it's all going to be slip pipe. But the town got $1,874,600 in CDBGI funds to replace old and deteriorated main sewer interceptor line along West Main Street, Highway 19E, Ferguson Hill Road, and Pine Swamp Road that collects wastewater from the entire town. Consists of replacing the existing 10-inch VCP line with about 13,000 linear feet of 10-inch sewer line, which it's the liner. The project will also include 120 sanitary sewer service taps, 20-point repair sewer service taps, and the rehab of about 58 manholes. Now, that might have changed a little bit after they did their, after they've done their engineering report, but that was what was in the original application. What we're looking at now, it's still the exact same project description, only we're looking at, this is gonna be the improved project description. Burnsville's main sewer interceptor project will treat sewer lines from the town wastewater treatment plant going northeast up Pine Swamp Road, Ferguson Hill Road, crossing 19E, to run east and parallel with the road, and the same, and at the same Ferguson Hill Road junction, crossing over to West Main and running east parallel with the street and 19E. So if that makes sense. Going from here all the way up, crossing, running up 19E this way and West Main this way, kind of works. It's the best way I can figure out how to explain that. That was and where the line is not located in the NCDOT right of way, it will traverse private property, or it does traverse private property. The attached map, which is this, and list which I will read, identifying properties that will be affected, and be advised that all of the properties that are affected have easements that are 60 years old at least. So there's easements on all these properties, and that's why we assumed that would have been public right of way. But there are 34 properties that will be affected, or not really affected, but that the line runs through, and they're numbered from the wastewater treatment plant back up towards Main Street. And I'm going to name these are names. We were finding out that not all of these are accurate. That it's probably people. What was now or formerly owned? Thank you. I couldn't think of the term. It was now or formerly owned by these people. So down at the bottom, property number 1 was now or formerly owned by Kenneth and Francis Silvers. Then there's 2 properties, number 2 and 3, Roy and Ruth McIntosh. Number 4 was Michael Dwight Penland property. Number 5, now formerly owned by Ermel and Jimmy Wheeler. Number 6 coming up, Reuben Higgins, and all of these so far are on Pine Swamp. Curtis and Kelly Fox. There's 2, number 8 and 9 are Paul and Nancy Tipton property, formerly, and I think I've looked recently and those 2 pieces of property have been combined into one. Danny Tillman McIntosh. Grover and Janet Fox. And some of these actually have West Side Drive addresses, but they also border Pine Swamp, and it's the Pine Swamp side we're looking at. Boyd and Bertha Wheeler, John and Vera Westall, then the Economy Center property, David and R.L. McIntosh, George Daniel Hensley. Then there's 2 properties, number 17 and 18, I think. Yeah, these 2, and I don't know if that's still, it says it's owned by Yancey Mobile Homes. Charles and Neil Ellis property. Properties on Main is number 20, which is, I have my glasses off to read, but I can't see that far away. Then number 21 coming up is Jack and Reba Hughes, Arthur Dover, and I think that one's one that one's a current one. Then there's 3 right together that says we were looking at, I think they were formerly owned by Thomas and Virginia Roberts. Linda Allen property, and all of these are up through here on Main Street. The Mountain Community Bank, which is TD Bank now. Centura Bank property, which was what? PNC Bank. The Albert and Eloise William Life Estate, then Brenda Williams McPhee, then there's another of the Albert and Louise Williams Life Estate, Donald and Elizabeth Westall, William and Jean Banks, and William Huskins, which ends right here next to Cooper Street.
If we can note, all work will be done within the existing sewer easements. This is not acquisition of new easements or anything of that nature.
And again, there will be very minor, if any at all, effects on the property owners, because everything's gonna be done within, from manhole to manhole. And hopefully very quickly at each property. So, now back to my script. The amendments to the project will not change the scope of the proposed activities or the initial budget. So those are staying the same. We're just looking at a more detailed project description. And the main sewer interceptor west improvement project was identified in the town's 2016 capital improvement plan and asset management plan. And it's still in the current rendition of that. A total of 100% of the CDBGI funding will be used to benefit low and moderate income people, LMI people, and the project area is townwide. The CDBG, you have to benefit an area, either a town or an area, project area of at least 51% low and moderate income. Well, the town of Burnsville has, per the census, 56.67% low and moderate income. So that's how the town qualifies automatically for that, as long as we're benefiting everybody here. The range of activities covered by the funds for this project includes construction, the environmental review, engineering design, construction administration and observation, any legal activities, surveying, and grant administration. And the state of North Carolina requires that if the town receives when the town receives CDBG grant funding, that the town will certify that they'll comply with requirements of the general displacement and relocation policy for CDBG grant funding. And this policy assists low and moderate income people with costs associated with relocation or displacement because of the project. That's not going to be an issue here. There should be no displacement or relocation. That's more for like if you're putting a road in and taking someone's home, but we have to make sure that that is stated. The CDBGI funds can be used for those costs if necessary to relocate somebody. If no displacement and relocation occur as a result, then the town I just confirmed it during the public hearing. Anyway, in the past, the town of Burnsville has applied for and received the following completed CDBG projects. Back in 2005, we got a CDBG economic development project of $1 million for Alltech to extend sewer line and it helped create 100 jobs. In 2016, the town received a CDBG-I project, another one like this one, and it was to do sewer line rehab out at the Peterson Trailer Park, out at the edge of town, and 45 homes were served with new functioning wastewater disposal. And I remember at that time, the public or your maintenance guys were out there about every week repairing something, so hopefully that's not happened again. And that was a neat project because everybody in that project area was low income. That doesn't happen very often. Then in 2017, you got another CDBGI project to do sewer line rehab on Indian Trail and Meadow Road. And that was $1,182,500. 37 homes and a 32-unit apartment building was served with better wastewater disposal. They were getting backups really bad on that street. The town submitted the CDBGI application for the main sewer interceptor west replacement project they sent it in by November 23rd, 2020. So we've been working on this for quite a while. The CDBGI application is available for review during normal business hours at the town hall, if anybody needs to see it, just at One Town Square. And additional information is available by calling the clerk. And, at, let's see, 828-682-2420, or email clerk@townofburnsville.org. And if you should have any complaints or grievances regarding the subject of the public hearing today, they should be addressed to the clerk within 15 business days or by March 23rd, 2023. And a written response to any written complaints or grievances will be sent out by the town within 15 business days where practicable. The project should, I mentioned this before, it should require or provide more reliable sewer service to the entire town by eliminating the current I&I issues that they're having and due to the deteriorated lines and potential line breaks. And the potential line breaks and or leaks caused by the same pipe should be eliminated as well. This project amendment should be submitted to the Department of Environmental Quality on or about April 10th, 2023. And so that's basically the end of mine, thank goodness. If anybody has any questions for me, I would be happy to answer them.
I think so. As always, you do a fine job, Michelle.
I just hate, you're gonna hear from me again next month. Do it, I'll have another one to do. Just
Well,
as
you just
long.
keep going.
Just as long as,
When we're hearing from you, we're getting money, so
yeah.
we're good.
Come every time.
All right, so,
Open the hearing and then.
yeah, I have a motion to open the hearing. The purpose of the hearing is to present a program amendment for the CDBGI main sewer interceptor project, amending the original project narrative from the application to give more detail.
I make a motion to open the meeting.
Second.
All right, so the hearing is open, and Danny McIntosh has signed up to speak on that.
I want to thank Michelle and Dana, is that your name, for coming all the way from the upper reaches of Watauga County here tonight to bring this good news. But Heather, it just came to me as Michelle was reading those names. It's not Robert Thomas, it's Thomas Roberts. And he is who bought the Chevrolet place from Big George Roberts. And
You're right.
after
That's exactly.
Scotty Roberts had run it, for some time after
Yeah.
Big George retired.
Be a nephew, right?
Right. Scotty was Big George's nephew, and then Thomas came along, and as I remember, and Judy, Bill, y'all may remember better than me, that Tom Roberts was no relation to them,
Right.
Yeah.
as I understand it. And so he was there in the interim until Gene Higgins and Dennis McCurry went in there as M&A Chevrolet. And I don't know that they ever took title to the property. May have been Thomas Roberts
I don't
through that
think-
time. I think
I
they
don't
may have
think
rented
so.
I
the
don't
property.
think so.
I don't think so.
But
Thank you.
anyway, that's
good.
Robert
Thank you.
Thomas, it's Thomas Roberts, so that just comes to me. This project here, and when you sign up for a public hearing, you've got to commit that you're for it or against it. It's one of them things, and I'm for this project. 1964 was a very good year in Yancey County. A new main interceptor sewer line along with the pump station and some other lines and all this kind of thing. But we got a new courthouse, and we got a new bypass. The bypass has been replaced. The courthouse needs replacing, and this line needs replacing probably more than any of it. I remember it very well. I watched construction of it, watched them build the manholes. And terracotta tile, that stuff's so fragile, I don't know how they got it in the ground without breaking it. But that's what you've got everywhere up through there, except the creek crossings and some of the road crossings and that kind of thing. And of course, something's been rebuilt, like across 19E down there when the new road was built. So this is a very important project, and I certainly would be in support of it.
Thank you, Danny. Do I have a motion to accept the exhibits that Michelle has presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor? Motion carries, Chad. Have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion closed.
Second.
Everybody agrees.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank y'all both.
You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to.
She's going to Boone.
Yeah, all right. Call me tomorrow. I'll send you this other stuff. I gotta
Dana's
sign.
not doing anything else, either, is
Call Dana too.
he? Huh?
We gotta get started on this next application.
Dana, you're welcome to skedaddle as well. We'd love to have you stay, but I know you got a drive ahead of you, so.
We've got some local presence back there offering some water for this project, so that's gonna be used too.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, guys. All right, moving on to presentations. Miss Christy Wood, she's way up on the, Jamie, she got moved all the way to the top of the agenda.
If you'll notice, I'm on the end of the agenda too.
I know.
But we're going to start off tonight. I generally end these performances with my talk on the chamber, and I'll do that again tonight and give you an update on that and some concerns. But for right now, I'm going to talk about tourism in Yancey County.
You guys are welcome to move around so you can see
Thank you guys for
this.
having me. This is a presentation I gave to the county a couple weeks ago. The Burnsville-Yancey Chamber of Commerce is responsible for overseeing the occupancy tax revenue for Yancey County through its Travel and Tourism Committee. My role is to oversee that, administer all of the tourism activities and the promotion for Yancey County. Tourism in North Carolina is $1 billion industry. In 2021, it reached $28.9 billion for the state, and $68 million were spent in Yancey County on tourism-related activities.
Wow.
These numbers continue to increase year over year. In 2021, tourism also accounted for 324 jobs, $14 million in labor revenue, and $3.7 million in local tax revenue. You are gone. You've moved too far. Sure. Thank you. Next slide. Tourism is an economic driver in Yancey County. No other sector of our economy has seen the year-over-year growth that travel and tourism has seen in the past several years. We've taken those increased revenues and invested in promotion and marketing for Yancey County. Our most recent figures show that the total spent on lodging in Yancey County for 2022 was $11 million. That doesn't account for any other tourism spending. Slide.
Is that just Airbnb?
That is across the board everything, Airbnb,
I guess I should've said
hotels,
does
motels. And that is without a major motel chain.
Yeah.
We are the only county that borders Buncombe County without a major hotel chain in our county. Did you move to the second slide there? Okay.
And then I got in the way.
A 3% occupancy collection tax rate is what Yancey County receives. On that $11 million spent on lodging in Yancey County, that equates to about $330,000 in occupancy tax for my office to spend. Slide. In the administering of our funds, I analyzed that data that we received from our contract source. Our top 10 origin markets for visitors in 2022 were Charlotte, Jacksonville, Florida, Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro, Cary, Boone, Winston-Salem, Johnson City, and Wilmington, in that order. Jacksonville, Charlotte, and Raleigh spent more money when they were visiting here. We're using that kind of data to target and market with more impact. Our data also shows that Yancey County saw an increase in overnight visitors versus day trippers in 2022, and that the largest percentage of visitors are coming in from out of state. I'm also tracking year-over-year change. in our tourism economy. And last year, you'll note that there was a drop in tourism activity compared to the previous year, which correlates to your inflation rates. Slide. The $328,000 in occupancy tax revenue is broken down in our office. We spend $61,000 on marketing and public relations. $95,000 is spent on advertising and promotion. We gave out $7,000 worth of sponsorships last year, and $17,000 is spent on administration, with a reserve fund of approximately $70,000 in case we don't collect as much occupancy tax in the near future. In addition to managing all the contracts, overseeing and approving all advertising and marketing, administering the funds, and the committee oversight, I continue to move forward programs, initiatives, and support marketing efforts. And that's just an idea of the other programs that I've been running in my office, personally. Next slide. Last year, Explore Burnsville had 8 featured online publications. They are our marketing and advertising company is Bridge the Gap Marketing. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Last year, Explore Burnsville had 8 featured online publications and saw an average of 174 clicks per ad and an average click-through rate of 4.43%. That's higher than the 2.7% travel and tourism industry standard. More than double almost. Next slide. Explore Burnsville had an average of 3 to 4 posts a week on our social media and 10 stories per week, and sent out 4 quarterly newsletters. Slide. Explore Burnsville's Google ad campaign in 2022 had an average cost per click of 61 cents and a click-through rate of 6.18%. Both numbers are substantially higher than the tourism standard. Next slide. We contract our public relations through Distal Public Relations. Burnsville received press coverage in 20 publications in 2022, including the Sunday Times in the UK, Charlotte Parent Magazine, Charleston Magazine, and the Blue Ridge Digest. And Burnsville was featured on 7 television news stories on WJHL, Ingalls Open Road. 3 stories were on WRL, RAL, PBS, and then WLOS. There's also a story that's on tonight's news on WLOS. Slide. No, that one didn't go through public relations. Burnsville was featured in 12 web articles, including Good Housekeeping, Garden and Gun, Forbes magazine, Blue Ridge Mountain Travel Guide, and the Blue Ridge Outdoors. Every dollar spent here in Yancey County generates income for our local businesses. Sales tax revenue for our communities is spent on important public projects, services, and infrastructure, and that local residents don't have to pay. The promotion done through the Chamber of Commerce continues to be a huge economic driver for our county. So, questions about tourism? Okay.
Congratulations.
That's my presentation. Tonight's story on WLOS has to do with the fact that we have a piece of legislation that we are trying to get passed to increase occupancy tax and bring our standard up to the state standard of being able to spend those occupancy tax dollars 2/3 on promotion and marketing and 1/3 on tourism-related expenditures that are not advertising and marketing. For instance, wayfinder signs, trail maintenance, infrastructure, a bike park, the stuff. So thank you, and I will be back up here later to talk about the chamber.
Thank you, Christie. Probably going around the plaza.
Well, I'd like to say I've been on this board a long time, and that's the first time I've ever seen a report from the Chamber of Commerce. That was great.
Yeah.
That was.
Good job. All right, Mr. Joe Ventrese with the Red Cross.
And my beautiful wife, Karen.
Oh, yeah. Not to forget Karen.
We don't do jumping jacks. And she's like, we're not gonna be able to beat Christie.
Christie, but we can interpret policy, so pretend that didn't happen.
$68 million.
Well, we work for free, so.
Hey.
Say something about it.
And you do save lives, I mean. 68 million are a life, you know.
Yeah, it was a cool night, so.
It takes it all, right?
Yes, it's definitely the whole community here. So March is Red Cross Month, and we'll talk about the proclamation at the end of this, but before that, we wanted to talk about a few things that Karen and I are doing in the community. And one of the things that's near and dear to our hearts, I think we told you this before, is the smoke detector installations that we have been doing. We have installed 76 smoke detectors so far, just Karen and I. We are working with the rec house, senior center, community paramedic, and Department of Social Services. And we leave these door hangers, as we call them, with all the information for people to come pick up, and then call us. And we've been getting calls now, and these other agencies are really helping out to get the word out. But it has been a very powerful thing for Karen and I, because we're going into people's homes, and we are making them so, potentially they're not going to have a fire that causes any sort of damage to themselves, because they'll hear that alarm and get out. We're also putting in hearing impaired smoke detectors that actually, it's a sensor, and that it shakes the mattress. The little thing that goes under the mattress and shakes it for people that have hard of hearing. And that's very powerful. People, we have them lay down on the mattress and they feel that shake. So we know that they're gonna get woken up if there's a fire. So one program that we really love and that we hopefully will continue to do more of in the community. Others, we are disaster action team members. When there's a home fire or a natural disaster, clients come to the Red Cross. We get calls, Mal's or somebody calls the Red Cross, and we get involved. One recent one, just to show you how this is very impactful to our local community. We had a family of 4 who their trailer caught on fire. They had to run out. It was a cold night. It was raining. They had hardly any clothes, shoes, and they were pushed out of their house because of a fire. Well, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We get a call. Now it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we need to help these people out. They have no place to go, no family, no nothing. So we get out, but there's no place to do the intake. So we said, Niles, we need your facility. So fortunately, Brian's one of the guys in Brian, Noah Polly from Brian's shop, showed up, opened up the facility. Karen and I were able to do the intake, which takes about an hour. The lady, they were freezing, so we brought the Red Cross blankets, put them over them, warmed them up. And so we want to thank Noah for doing that for us.
Sorry, Christie, you just got beat out.
But that's the powerful thing that Karen and I can do for the community, and that makes, of course, that's why we volunteer. But to help people like that, and they were very appreciative. I ran into them at the grocery store a few days later, and they just want to hug and thank you. So it's really nice.
The reconciliation provides support also.
They do. Once we have a fire, we go to the rec house, and the folks can go in and get clothes, whatever they need, food, and we support them that way too. So, you got the next couple.
Okay, so I'm talking about, I'm doing free training at the senior center, and I realize that anyone over 60 is able to go to the senior center, and so now I fit in because I'm 60. I didn't realize that 60 was the new elderly, but I kind of like it. So I'm training hands-only CPR, first aid, and also weather emergencies right now. I've so far trained 41 people, and the classes fill up, and it's gonna be a rotating program where we teach continually hands-only CPR, and we know Randy can tell you that any kind of CPR is better than nothing. Is that correct, Randy?
Exactly.
As long as we get it started, because I live up on a mountain, and fortunately I'm close to Randy, because he's gonna run over and save me if I need it. But, you know, when people live out in Egypt, Ramsey Town, and also in Double Island area, it takes time for rescuers to respond. And anything that anyone can do for any type of first aid or CPR can really make a difference. So for me, that's my primary goal, is trying to give people the ability to perform the action. It's a very simple action, hands-only CPR, but feel confident they can, and at least start any type of first aid for their family and relatives. And we've been talking about weather emergencies. We didn't mention blizzards, we did mention snows, but we have been discussing different weather emergencies and how to handle them and how to prepare for emergencies, and to please have a bag ready and packed, and also a plan, an escape plan, and who to contact. Make your list, who you're gonna go to, who's available, and I think that's really important for elderly, because they have to sit down and think, oh gosh, who's still around, who will be able to help me. But that's why we had a medication list. My goal is to, come on, let's start thinking about this now, getting something easy packed in a bag, so that all you have to do is pull it out, and you know your resources and where to go. And the next thing, Battle of the Badges. And Chief Niles is sponsoring Battle of the Badges again. And I know Battle of the Badges is usually in August, but I found out that it was in March. So tomorrow is our day. And we have 13 appointments as of an hour ago, from 4:15 to 6:45. So still available. Joe and I are at 3:45, so if we pass out, maybe Randy can come. No, we won't pass out. He's been a lot higher this month, so I'm gonna be good. But we really encourage everyone, come on, donate blood, because as Chief Niles and Randy will tell you, people do need blood, and emergencies are unpredictable.
So the blood drive is at the new fire department, from 2 to 7. And so you can walk in anytime, you don't have to make an appointment. We'd like to make appointments, but, you know, if you can't make it in the open time between 4:15 and 6:45, you need to come earlier. Come early. Karen and I will bump our spot and donate later or whatever. Don't let that stop you from coming.
How do they donate? Where do they register? Did you forget? Oh, redcross.org. .org, you'll be able to register and look up in our zip code, and then tomorrow our blood drive will be available. Thank you, Christy, for advertising our blood drive. We really, truly appreciate it. And of course, thank you for the articles. That's pretty good. Maybe more cookies on this and because I know that food goes a long way. Thank you for the articles. We really appreciate it and the advertising.
All right, so last thing, and we'll get off the stage here, is Red Cross is, March is Red Cross Month. So there is a proclamation that we have written up. We're not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to pick out just one paragraph that I think it kind of summarizes the whole thing for us. So it says, support, volunteerism, and generosity of donations are critical to our community's resilience. We hereby recognize this month of March in honor of all those who fulfill Clara Barton's noble words, "You must never think of anything except the need and how to meet it." And we ask everyone to join in this commitment. So asking for more, volunteers, and just this community really takes care of themselves. And I've seen that since we've been here a little over 3 years now, and trying to break in to say, hey, Red Cross is here, and we definitely can provide that support, because there is such a tight-knit community here. People just take care of something on this issue. And that's great. That's the type of community that we want to live in, that's for sure. The Red Cross is here for you. We're happy to be here to support.
We're happy to have you and appreciate all that you do.
I would say we have a town resident that just, since last night, received 3 units. So you talk about hitting on.
Always the need for blood. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve that proclamation.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you guys are doing.
All right, Ms. Hockaday with the manager's report.
You're up to me. I don't have very much. First thing is our accessibility upgrade for Town Hall. We finally have a bid from a contractor for the lift project. It is within our budget, and I would just ask for a vote to proceed with working out a contract, negotiating a contract for this project to get finally underway. I think we've been carrying this money for 3 years now.
Yeah.
We've been 2 years trying to get somebody to cross it.
Yeah,
Can we have the number?
The number is, yes, for the total amount, and this would include the construction and the lift unit, is $130,847.75.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll get to go back to having meetings in town hall.
That would be great. I love that. Everybody would.
Yeah.
I did want to let y'all know, as Michelle alluded to, I attended the CDBGI training session in Hendersonville on Tuesday. I think because there was so much ARPA money out there, they ended up having $19 million left over, so they're gonna do a spring round, which they typically don't, but it's a short-term turnaround. I think the applications are due in May 1st. And they have increased the program funding from, used to be you could only get $2 million every 3 years, now you can get $3 million. The town has a $2 million grant out, the one she just discussed. So we'll be eligible for another $1 million. And so we're currently evaluating which projects are on our CIP that would maximize, we could maximize points on. That's a big thing. So what we will have to do is come back with a resolution for that application in April. So that's why she was talking about that she would be back. We did receive notice, I was excited about this, that we were awarded the DOT feasibility study grant for the East Main Sidewalk Project in an amount of $72,100. And we think that this funding will help us gain actual, to do the study and get a plan in place. It's gonna help us be able to move forward looking for funding for the actual project. I had a conversation that Christy helped facilitate with Kyle Case from Commerce, and then I also talked with Phil True and Tatiana McGee up at High Country about submitting another round to the Rural Transformation Grant Program. So we're trying to work that out and figure out, I think that maybe July is their next grant cycle. It may be a little bit earlier than that, but it's somewhere coming up pretty soon. So we'll be back with that. Tax report, you guys have the report. The 2022 levy, we're plus 95% collection on it. And the advertisements will go out in the paper this month, so everybody that's not paid their taxes, their name's gonna be in the paper. That used to be a big deal. I don't know how much it is anymore, but people would die rather than have their name in the paper. So hopefully, usually we have a big flurry of people come in and pay their taxes when they know that's coming out. So that'll be this month. And that is all I have.
Do we need to do we need to vote on the lift?
Yes, if y'all would, just, we could go to, work on putting the contract together and authorize the mayor to sign it within those funding parameters.
Judy made a motion, Bill second, Chad. Randy in favor?
Yes.
go back to town hall. I am too.
There you go. All right, we'll move on to our clerk, Mr. Chad Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two items for you tonight. The first one is filling the vacancy on the board with a recent resignation. The chairman, I believe, resigned before his term was out, so we have a year left on that term. And there was 3 applications we had on hand that we got before you last week, and we just need a nomination to fill that spot for the remainder of his term.
We have a nomination.
I nominate Jamie McMahon.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The other item is for grant compliance. We have a quarterly obligation to do various items for fair housing. And this quarter, they got a resolution in front of us. And that's our activity for this quarter. If we could get a motion on that resolution for National Fair Housing Month.
I'll make that motion.
No, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
All right, Shane is not with us tonight. Did you have anything to report from him?
I do not. I talked to him earlier and he apologized for not being here, but he didn't have anything new to report.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to our finance officer, Ms. Leslie Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sent out the budget versus actual and the overtime report earlier as well. Also, the resolution and some information on the North Carolina Capital Management Trust. That's what we asked about tonight. Does anybody have any questions about the budget versus actual? There was a few lines that needed some cleanup, so I've been working on that a little bit today. But the North Carolina Capital Management Trust is a trust that's approved. It's like an investment firm that's approved by the state treasurer and the LGC for you to invest your money in. All 100 counties belong to it, 442 cities or towns, 25 hospitals, 72 schools in the state of North Carolina. It is a good way, it looks like, to make some extra interest on our money right now. Last month, they paid 4.5 and we got 1.15. So we thought we'd kind of start with just some small stuff at first, like this LEO special separation, the OPEB, and see how that goes. And see, see how it is with that. And then see, wait till these grants and see what we actually have that we'd like to start. And most people already belong to it, we just couldn't find anything saying that we had belonged to it before. So I've got a resolution, shall need to approve for it. Kids are okay with that?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
I second.
Great.
Right.
Motion carries.
I like those numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger number.
Uh-huh.
All right. Is that all you have, Leslie?
That's it, thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Chief Niles Hale with the Fire Department update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You do have our call summary for February before you, and we had 29 calls for the month, 7 of which were MVAs, which made it the largest percentage of our calls for the past month. Seemed to be a lot of motor vehicle accidents out there, so be careful out there. That brings us to a total of 59 so far for the year. As far as other things going on with the department, we have applied for the state fire grant to try to get us some about 4 new thermal imaging cameras, which are small units that can be personally carried by firemen into a fire if need be, and also to try to replace some of our aging SCBA or air packs with some new ones, and that is a matching grant, maximum of which $30,000 matching both ways. So I put that application in, should know something by mid-May. Attended the LEPC meeting, the Local Emergency Planning Committee meeting, and just represent the fire service in that particular meeting. They will be meeting here in our department next meeting. It represents the 3 counties, both Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey, so they'll be there for that. We have been busy preparing for the blood drive, which is tomorrow. Again, I'll mention that just to remind folks to get out there. And also next week, we have scheduled in-service training for law enforcement folks at Sheriff's Office. I'm not sure whether your folks participating in that. So they'll be at the fire department next week, 4 days, doing some in-service training with some breakout sessions in different parts of the building. So we're going to try to help them with that. So trying to work with some of our community folks who need a space for some training, and so that works out well for us and them too. And that's about all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Mr. Brian Buchanan, Police Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I passed out our activity log from the police. We had a fairly normal month, the month of February. The one main item I have on my agenda is the road closure ordinance. A few months ago, we approved the upcoming Fit Families 5K to have a road closure. That event's been going on for several years. We heard back from the state this week that they approved the request that we sent. So as part of our process, we have to pass an ordinance closing the road. So we should have a copy of that, and I just need a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, Brian. Let's just let you continue on.
I'll just continue on. As far as zoning and code enforcement, I was able to attend the work on zoning officials winter conference a few weeks ago, which is necessary for me to maintain my certification with that. Finished that up. The other thing I have is we have, as a staff, has seen some changes that most of these are fairly minor with regard to the zoning ordinance that we'd like for the board to consider to send to planning board to have them make a recommendation on, to come back with you with the changes they'd like to see. A couple of these, the early ones that were in your packet, we had a section misreferenced. We had section 720 referenced as far as some regulation. It should have been section 719. So that's more of a cleanup type thing, along with the section in 712 under dwellings and secondary, adding some language that should have been included along with that. As part of my training that I went to, I found out that some of our language that we have in our short-term rentals could be problematic with some case law that's come through. So this was basically just changing to where instead of the individuals having to keep their owner's information and contact information on file with the town, this is putting the onus on them to have that posted on their property. And so if emergency services or somebody has to show up, they still have that access to that contact information, which was our intention anyway. But there's been some regulations, some case law come down about that might lead to some sort of registration, which is not allowed in North Carolina. So this is just a cleanup for that, to put the onus on them to post it on their property. And the last change that we were proposing with the 2 new facilities that were being considered, well, it's one facility, the new public works and police facility being considered. As we look through the off-street parking requirement that was in our zoning, that language for those types of facilities was just copied over basically from like retail. So put the same standard of like a retail establishment where you're going to have a lot of customers coming in and out, which doesn't really apply to those type of facilities, which you're not really dealing that much with the public. It's more for staff. So that was the recommendation, was changing that requirement more based on the number of employees rather than the number of square footage of your space. So if anyone has any question about those, I can certainly answer those or any discussion, but if not, then just I'd like to get a recommendation to send that to planning for them to make a recommendation back to you all of what changes they'd like to see.
I'll make that motion to send a recommendation back to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Brian. All right, Mr. Corbin?
Yes, thank you. February was pretty good. Towards the end, it got a little slow, but this last week, the phones have been off the hook. We, just this last week alone, I booked several events. We're filling up quite nicely for the rest of the year. March, I have 21 events so far, which is one more than we had last year. But starting actually tomorrow, I have a wedding, and then April, a lot of weddings and craft shows. This is the year for weddings and craft shows that we've seen. And then I also have some music coming up in April, May, and June. So we're booking up quite nicely. We want to try to reach that mark that I said. But that's all I really have. It's going well so far. It's been good this year.
Thank you, Corbin.
Thank you.
All right, council member reports. Anybody have anything to report on?
Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything.
I was gonna talk about the High Country Council meeting the other night. They were still talking about Burnsville, and Burnsville's at the top of the money getting things, and it's almost embarrassing to think about getting away with all that money and nobody else. But anyway, I have a paper here if anybody would like to see what county's got what, and Burnsville's at the top. And they, also there was a representative there from the Insurance Commission, and the name of the guy from Yancey County, I gave it to Heather, and if anybody has any kind of complaint for the Insurance Commission, this guy will be an intermediary for them for that. And another thing, they have already started classes at the library for that matter of balance for aged people, and they're going to have Tai Chi classes for balance, and yeah, but they're going to be having that too. But anyway, the one for matter of balance is going on now. They're having 2 classes over at the library.
That's pretty impressive when you look at that report.
Yeah.
We're very thankful.
They were also saying the return on investment for every dollar in membership dues, High Country got $80.42, and the average for all the rest of the areas that they did was $35. So they get out and dig for money.
They do. Thank you, Bill. I've got just a couple of things. Area C, I know we talked about it back in December.
Yeah, I think it was
Possibly
December.
when-
It was December.
When we'd chosen not to go with the proposal that was sent with us. That lease is coming up, and the current leaseholder is wanting it for more than one year, and that requires us to run that advertisement in the newspaper. So we would need
There's just a 30-day notice, and then at the end of that 30 days, it has to be at a regular business meeting, according to the statute, that you guys would adopt a resolution to allow us to enter into a new lease. The lease expires April 1, and so we would be looking probably after a day after our next meeting, so it probably would be the May meeting before we come back with the lease. We could backdate it, but discussions have been had about increasing the rental amount by 300?
Yes, went from
Per month.
1,200 to 1,500 a month.
And they're okay with that?
Yes, yeah, I'd had a conversation with them when the other proposal come in, and they were in agreement for the price increase, but they wanted it for more than 1 year. So that requires us to, they'd actually asked for 3 years. That requires, anything over a year requires us to advertise.
So we would just need an approval to run the advertisement. It doesn't mean that you're gonna approve the resolution when it comes. you know.
So we don't need to make a motion or anything, just,
Well, I think I
Yeah,
would
just,
make,
just to
to advertise
advertisement.
okay, I make the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Secondly, I would like to recognize somebody in the crowd. I didn't know he was gonna be here tonight, but, John England is here and, I don't wanna embarrass John, but, John has, helped me on a couple different occasions. And, John's not a resident of the city limits, but I've reached out to him a couple of times and he set up some meetings for me and with me, as I've tried to secure funds for a couple of different things, and just want to recognize John. Thank you for what you do for the county. So I know you've been working with Heather on some stuff too, so I appreciate what you do.
Thank you all.
That's all I have.
I was gonna have a question for Shane, but since he's out, maybe you guys could, when are we gonna start back up on the roads? Toward the end of the month?
I don't know,
Think
maybe,
the
maybe,
con-
maybe Katie can tell us.
The,
Katie?
Betty's saying, she's like, nah, I don't do that.
I had talked to,
They're working on Westover.
Yeah.
yes, yeah, they're currently, and, I mean, I talked to Ryan last couple weeks ago, I guess, and he said as weather permitted, they would.
And I
warm
think
enough
it's
to go.
through, the end date, I'd have to check, but it's like end of May or something like that,
Yeah.
so.
They started work yesterday.
Because we weren't expecting weather this warm,
Right.
paving weather this soon.
Right.
Huh? No, it's fine. Unless Randy wants to.
No, I'm getting
they
killed
are
with questions
starting
on
back.
when it's gonna get started, and I said, as warm as it's been, it should be, so.
Told him I
Well,
could.
I will tell you, FYI, it might be warm, but if we had an asphalt plant that would actually run, that'd be another thing. Can get asphalt, haven't been able to get asphalt for like 2 weeks. So, what can, maybe, I don't know, maybe 7
All right, Christie, you're back under the spotlight again.
Okay, different hat. Thanks again for having me. I'm gonna start off with a couple of concerns before I give you an update. My one concern is, and you may or may not be able to answer this question, it has to do with the missing person in front of me. Is there any update on what's happening? And it may be a county question with the economic development position.
The update that I can give you is that the Economic Development Commission will meet Monday night,
Okay.
and then there probably will be more updates.
I look forward to that. I look forward to that. It's a big missing piece and a hole in our community right now. My next, I've had some people, and I mentioned this to Heather earlier and got an update from her, but there has been some concern about a potential with the county and town joint grant funding for infrastructure, water, and sewer. And so I'm just mentioning that in the meeting, that there's concern that those funds might be lost from community and chamber members. So I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention and hope that
Christie
Okay.
and I had this conversation earlier, and this has to do with the county's earmark and the deadline that the legislature has set, that the funds the earmark be earmarked and committed towards the project by the end of June of this year. I had meetings with the county attorney today and the county manager and Corey Osborne with High Country Council of Governments, and I can assure everybody that they are well aware and well on their way. I think most of the funds are already committed towards projects that they may not have submitted the paperwork to DEQ yet, because you have to wait on an engineer to put together a budget, and engineers are busy people right now. But I don't feel like there's a danger that those funds are gonna go back. Now, they were earmarked specifically in the budget for water and wastewater infrastructure, and I think maybe some people thought it was just free money for anything, but it's not. And they're certainly for larger projects that will either improve the system we have, the East Yancey Water and Sewer District plant, or extensions into areas where we need more infrastructure out in the county, so.
And I think, I don't know, I thought you might have left a little early that day we had a joint meeting. What come out of there was the county was pretty much saying,
They were talking about moving forward towards
yeah,
west.
where do you
west-
guys wanna use it at?
Yeah, West Yancey.
Was how I
for,
took that.
infrastructure for potential housing.
I think those ideas have been firmed up based on their meeting last month when we were there, and then also.
And they're actually having a closed session tonight on,
I knew they were having a closed session, special
On
closed
EDC.
session tonight. Okay, thank you. Updates on what we've got going on the chamber side next Thursday. I'm in state tourism meetings in Asheville. The convention for the state tourism is in Asheville Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I'll be there working on tourism. But then Thursday evening, we have a remote worker networking event. Feel free to come. It's at Birdfoot from 6 o'clock till whenever people stop drinking beer. And then the following Thursday, we'll be at Reconciliation House, our last business after hours out at Dark Sky Wood Design. We have 54 members show up, so it's these are growing, and people are out there networking and doing business at these events. And then the following Thursday morning, we'll be here at Town Center for a grant writing session, education for our members. That's the month upcoming for the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd love to welcome you all to come to some of our events. So, questions for the chamber?
Sounds like you're busy.
Coming and going.
Thank you, Christie. All right, Bill has reported on High Country. And, there is no closed session, so that being said, have a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 6th. Have a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
All right, thanks to everyone for coming.